Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. I'm your old pal Emac, taking you through Thursday's 5 game slate. Wait, no, it's 6. But one of those games is in London. It's the New York Knicks taking on the Washington Wizards. Enes Kanter apparently is an international spy, so he's not going to London. But we have, hopefully you guys didn't start them in your season-long head-to-head weekly. You start your lineup, or you set your lineup Sunday night. I did. I have 2 Knicks, I have 2 Wizards, and then I have LeBron and Kevin Love in 2 of my 3 bench spots. So I'm kind of going to lose this week. Adam, talk to me. What do you think about these international games for basketball?
Yeah, you kind of just see it with every sport now. I guess it's good, to get more of a global audience. I'm sure it's good for, marketing from a marketing standpoint. I'm sure it absolutely sucks for the players, but it is what it is.
Now, at least basketball did it correctly, because this week, again, as I mentioned, the Knicks and the Wizards basically have 1 game for the whole week. We've seen baseball a couple of years start early in Japan or start early in Australia. I want to say Australia 2, maybe 3 seasons ago, it was the Dodgers and somebody else, and they played 2 games while there were still 10 days left in regular season spring training, and then they came back and didn't go on the opening day. But it's kind of interesting how they handle this. Normally for football, it gets really wild, because football, they can choose if they want their bye week after their London trip. They tell all the teams, hey, of those of you that are going over to London, do you want your bye week the week after, or do you want it to go wherever it lands? And almost always they choose the bye week after. I believe this year, I want to say it was the Colts that did not take them up on that, but generally everybody else does. So it's kind of interesting. I think obviously we're in the global game. The time zones, especially when you got a West Coast team traveling all the way out to London. I mean, that's from the East Coast to London is 6 hours. From the West Coast, it's 9. That's a little bit crazy, but we do like the global audience. We like anything that helps out the leagues remaining solvent and making their handful of billionaire owners even richer, much like we're seeing in baseball. Adam, I know you've started to dabble a little bit with the baseball research for season-long high-stakes leagues, because you are going to be getting into that. But what the hell? We have no real movement on Manny Machado or Bryce Harper. That just screams foolishness. I don't want to use the C word, collusion, because it's a very defined thing and it's very tricky. But for the love of Pete, it definitely feels like teams are just backing off, because we've seen the billions of dollars coming in from television revenue. Even the lower stakes teams still are getting all the revenue sharing, because how it works is 70 or 80% you get to keep from your local contracts, but the 30% goes back into the pool and then is divided evenly. So even Kansas City's making a boatload. What the hell?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see that none of those guys are signed.
It's just, very bizarre. But the Hot Stove League kicking in. We're going back to NBA Thursday. Again, 5 games. We'll have projections, etc., for that 3 o'clock Eastern time game taking place in London, again, between the Knicks and the Wizards. The only team on a back-to-back that played Wednesday that is going to play Thursday is Toronto. We, of course, are recording this Wednesday night, so we don't know what's happening in that game if anybody gets dinged up. But not to fear. You're going to have the DFS strategy show at about 9:15 Thursday, and that will be Lofty and Josh. They'll break down game by game in all the rabbit holes you want. If you got an hour and a half, check that out. By the way, we are putting that on the podcasts streams now, so you can catch that. I like to listen to that while I'm out and about doing things during the weekday or during lunch. It's a little easier and less on the data than it is for listening to it live on YouTube. But Adam, we're going to dive right in here. We have at the tippy top one Russell Westbrook going against the Los Angeles Lakers. We have the Lakers are road dogs. Road dogs by 10. That feels a little bit light. We're not in the business of projecting blowouts. Talk to me. Russell Westbrook. I was going to do a whole thing about Westbrook being from California and playing at UCLA, but that doesn't matter at this point. What do you got here? Russell Westbrook and then the also.
Yeah, I mean, the game also is in OKC, so we saw them go to LA recently, but this one's back in Oklahoma City. Not a good matchup in terms of defense. Like the Lakers have been very, very good defensively, but it's an excellent matchup in terms of pace. The Lakers and the Thunder, two of the fastest paced teams in the league, should be plenty of possessions in this game. And of course, we know that Westbrook takes advantage of that, assists, rebounds, and then obviously scoring. So I think you really have to like Westbrook here. You do not have James Harden on this slate. You do not have Anthony Davis on this slate. So it's going to make it even easier to get to Westbrook as well. Really just standing out as the number one star on the slate. Beyond that, at point guard, you have Kemba in a great matchup against Sacramento. We finally saw him knock down some shots his last time out. I'm still a little concerned just because, as we've talked about before, he does benefit from playing alongside Cody Zeller. Zeller is good in the pick and roll. Kemba lives in the pick and roll. So it still concerns me a little bit with Zeller being out, but it is a nice matchup against Sacramento. If you can't find the money for Westbrook, then you're getting Kemba in a huge face-up spot as well.
And just to set the stage, everybody else at point guard is significantly discounted from Westbrook, but the other top stars, top dollar plays on the slate per DraftKings here is Nikola Jokic at 10,600. Westbrook's at 11,800. We have Paul George at 9,800. We have Joel Embiid at 10,100. And then we have Kawhi Leonard at 9,600. Back-to-back, we'll have to see if he's going to play. He has not really done that this season. This is a game for them against Phoenix, which, of course, not intimidating. But looking at the remainder here of our point guard plays, below Walker, below Westbrook, you have, shooting guard eligible Victor Oladipo, 7,600. He's going against Philly. We've got Ben Simmons. He's the other guy above 9,000. He's at 9,200. Kyle Lowry on the back-to-back. Not exciting. I'm really only interested in Lowry if Kawhi is out. Talk to me here about kind of this mid-tier, maybe throw in De'Aaron Fox as well against Charlotte.
Yeah, so I mean, Lowry, you're right as far as he's better when Kawhi's out. It is worth keeping an eye on because this is a back-to-back for Toronto. They've said that they're considering letting him play, but they've been saying that for like a month now. So it wouldn't be surprising at all if Kawhi does sit this one out, and if he does, Lowry becomes a phenomenal play. If Kawhi does play, then again, it's just not really that appealing of a play going to Lowry. De'Aaron Fox's minutes kind of all over the place lately, down a little bit. It is a nice matchup against the Hornets. Should be a fast-paced game there. So I don't mind Fox. I'd rather get to Kemba if I can. For $600 more, but if I have to settle for Fox, I'm fine with that.
All right, what do you got with Denver going against Chicago here? Denver is definitely the odds-on favorite. They are 12-point home favorites here in the Pepsi Center. Chicago been an absolute mess. This is Chicago wrapping up the final game of their, I think it's 6 or 7 game road swing that has taken them all through the West Coast, up and down, and to Utah and San Antonio, and now we're finishing it up here in Denver. But Jamal Murray putting up some nice numbers. We've got Chris Dunn on the other side. Disappointed me way too many times. Talk to me about that duo.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Dunn is a spot where I'll probably just lose money again, but I'll go right back to it.
You won't be alone, my friend. You won't be alone.
He's 6,200 here against Denver. Not a great spot going into Denver, but the price tag is just too cheap for someone that should play 33 or 34 minutes if the Bulls can keep this game competitive, which obviously is a big if. But, Dunn's been very involved offensively since Zach LaVine's return. You have about a 21% usage rate and nearly a 40% assist percentage for Chris Dunn. The price tag is just too low for the upside that he brings. There's plenty of risk here, but the price tag really factors that in.
All right. This is I should have done news and notes with the injuries. Not that many. We have Gary Harris is questionable with the hamstring injury. This is a game where if he does play, hard to see him getting more than 12 to 16 minutes, but that, of course, could affect Malik Beasley. We do have OG Anunoby, who is questionable. He's been out with a personal issue, but they've targeted a return date for this Thursday. And then Jamal Crawford was out for personal reasons. Now he's dealing with a knee injury, and we have Devin Booker playing again, so he is kind of out of the picture. As we scroll down here, the one guy I always like to ask you about is DeAnthony Melton, and what do you think is going to happen there with the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to like Melton now that Booker's back. You have Melton, you have Okobo, you have Jamal Crawford, who's now questionable for this game against Toronto. But Devin Booker just takes so much of the ball handling responsibility, so much of the usage, that it becomes really difficult to still be interested in Melton.
All right. Let's see. Anybody else? Let's finish it off with one of your favorites, Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, I think that the price tag on Ball, he's obviously all over the place, but a $6,400 price tag in this really, really fast-paced game, I think it's perfectly reasonable for him. Like, you should see around 36 minutes. It's obviously a good Oklahoma City defense, but that doesn't mean you can't get big games. You only have to go back and look at the last time Oklahoma City played, when they gave up 142 points to whoever the hell is playing for the Hawks right now. Obviously you can still score points on this team, and they're going to let you get a ton of possessions. I think the price tag's a little low for Lonzo.
All right. I think we're going to let the rest of these bargain guys go. It's going to be if-then for a variety of reasons. You don't have to worry about that because Adam is going to be covering the deep dive. That is the article series we run Monday through Saturday. Lofty writes that on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Adam writes that on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's behind the paywall. You want to check us out here at Osmo.com. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word. Select any single month package. You'll get 50% off. Pick one with the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, and you can learn how to do a little MME. There is a ton of people in Slack chat, including most of our analysts throughout the day. We're happy to give advice and strategies on how to do that, and a lot of that is always covered every day on the DFS Strategy Show, which, again, that runs Monday through Saturday on the Osmo.com YouTube channel. Moving here over to and of course my window's going to freeze. Talk to me about your number one shooting guard while I reload this page.
I was reloading mine as well.
Go for it,
yes.
Shooting guard.
Yeah, sorry, still.
That's okay. I got mine. Devin Booker, Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, not feeling revenge, but a decent matchup at 6,800 on DraftKings going against Indiana. Those kind of are your top three choices. And again, we may not be forced to go heavy on the backcourt here. So somebody like Jimmy Butler at 6,800 is somewhat intriguing here on the road in a game where Philadelphia is 3-point underdogs with a 224 over-under. That's kind of a midpoint of where our over-unders are today.
Yeah, so I think that it's obviously a tough matchup for Booker going into Toronto. You can certainly make a argument for him in tournaments because he is such a high upside player. But I think the matchup obviously is better for Oladipo. The concern is just that Oladipo really has not been himself. The usage is down, the production's down. But still, it's a Philadelphia team that has gotten beat pretty badly by higher usage ball handlers, which Oladipo is. His usage being down means that it's down from 31 or 32% earlier in the year down to 26, 27% now. So it's not like he's a guy that's just standing in the corner doing nothing. He's just not doing what he was earlier in the season. I think the price tag has dropped to where I'll still end up rostering him quite a bit and just hoping to be there when he finally turns things around. Jimmy Butler, the matchup much less appealing against Indiana, but again, just a really cheap price tag on Butler, who is going to play 34 to 36 minutes in a competitive game.
All right, let's hit on the Indiana Pacers duo of Victor Oladipo, Bojan Bogdanovic. I like Bojan, shooting guard, small forward, but I do like him. He's hit 34 on average in 3 of his last 5 games, 34, 32.5, and 42 fantasy points. Don't look now, but the Pacers have gone 9-2 in their last 11 games. Heading into that, they lost 2, but they won 7 in a row prior to that. Holy heck. The Pacers got some good stuff going here. What do you think about Victor or Bojan?
Yeah, so Victor talked about before, just obviously not as good as he was earlier in the year, but still, I think the price tag's come down. Bogdanovich is kind of the opposite. He's shooting really, really well. He's playing really well, but the price tag has come up. I think Miles Turner being back is a slight negative for Bogdanovich. It's really tough for me to get to him at what I think is just kind of a ceiling price tag.
Okay. That seems reasonable. Anybody else here at the 2 guard as we move along through our semi-nice 5-game slate?
Brandon Ingram in that OKC matchup, really, really similar to Lonzo Ball in that, it's a tough matchup in terms of efficiency, but there should just be so many, possessions for both of these teams that I think Ingram playing 36 to 38 minutes gives you some nice value.
All right, on to small forward. We have Paul George at 9,800. He has been absolutely nails recently, just filling the box score in every way possible. You have Kawhi Leonard, again, the back-to-back. I'm guessing it's 1 in 3 that he plays, so he will not be a part of my plan. So let's focus on Paul George versus the Lakers or Ben Simmons against those pesky Pacers.
I really like George here. Obviously, we like Westbrook a lot at the point guard position. I imagine I'll get to a lot of Westbrook. But if I can't, George gives you a discounted focal point from this Oklahoma City offense. If it's not Westbrook, if the offense isn't running through Westbrook, it's running through George. And, he plays the small forward position, which is historically weaker. It's just, again, a great game environment where I would like to get as much as I can from it. So, George, I really like. Whereas Simmons, he's been playing incredibly well. It is a tougher matchup for him, a much slower paced Indiana team, a good Indiana defense. Not to say that the Lakers aren't, but, good Indiana defense in a slower paced game. So I would give George the edge ahead of Simmons, but the caveat being when you have Westbrook for, 11,600 or whatever he is, and you have George approaching $10,000, if you roster both of those guys, you're suddenly tying up, 20% of your salary in 2 players from the same team. Not to say it can't work, but it's kind of limiting your options. So if I have Westbrook, I would prefer Simmons. If I don't have Westbrook, I prefer George.
If you take one of those Thunder guys, what would you like to run it back with one of the Lakers? Would Kyle Kuzma be your first choice at 6,900 on DraftKings? Small forward, power forward, eligible.
Yeah, any of Kuzma, Ingram, or Lonzo, all I think just underpriced on DraftKings for this matchup. And it's a tough, defensive matchup for any of them. So not really picky between them.
All right, well, let's get picky then. We have Buddy Hield, Jeremy Lamb squaring off in Charlotte. Both these guys have definite tournament upside, but they can also break your heart. 6,100 for Hield, 5,700 for Jeremy Lamb. Thoughts there?
Hield's minutes concern me. Again, with Sacramento getting healthy, you're seeing some, playing time decreases. I think that he's okay, but I would rather go to Lamb. I think that you probably get 30 to 32 minutes from him in a huge pace-up spot against Sacramento. Really, whenever I can roster guys against the Kings, I try and do it. So I'd give the slight edge here to Jeremy Lamb.
All right. The only other guys at this point, till we get some news that are popping somewhat, Marvin Williams, 4,800 going against Sacramento. They're going to need some size. They are, of course, without their center. So Charlotte is, of course. So Marvin Williams is in play. You got TJ Warren going against Toronto. Not the easiest of matchups, but he's back down at 6,000. Anybody else there? Perhaps a 5,200 DGAF move for Kelly Oubre Jr.?
It's tough to get to. I know he had a good game against Indiana, but again, that was a game where they just got their asses kicked by the Pacers. So still just really tough to get to Oubre now that Booker's back. Marvin Williams is interesting where he's small forward eligible just because you're essentially getting a guy that's playing all of his minutes at the 4 and the 5 at small forward at a really cheap price tag. So I do like him. I would certainly put him ahead of Kelly Oubre.
All right, last guy we're going to cover here is Jabari Parker. This allows us to transition from small forward to power forward as he is eligible with both. Adam, he's probably going to play somewhere between 17 and 19 minutes. He has been phenomenal. He's well rested because he hasn't played for very many games. But it looks like they're just trying to piss off Robin Lopez before he gets his buyout. I don't think anybody's going to trade for Lopez. They're just going to wait him out. But you've got $3,600 Jabari Parker against Denver. That is going to be very, very tempting. And just checking out his game log, he has only played in the last 2 games, so he did not play in Golden State. He did not play in Portland. He should have fresher legs than some of his compatriots there. Talk to me here about Jabari Parker, and I saw an interesting comparison to the new Chicago coach and the Junction Boys from back in I want to say it was in the 50s with college football players and their not spring training. What do we call it? Their preseason camps. Everyone will read a good book. It's Junction Boys. But basically, they practice without water on hard gravel, and baked dirt. Horrible situations. But that feels a lot like what the Chicago Bulls are going through with their new coach, who just got an upgrade in his pay. Hit me on Jabari Parker.
Yeah, and Wendell Carter being out should give us more minutes for Parker as well. We saw.
I did not see Wendell Carter out.
Yeah, Carter's out, so we can look to the Bulls for some value here, and Parker's certainly one of them. You got him back in the rotation last game because apparently he's finally done in practice whatever the hell it is Jim Boylan wanted him to do. So he's back in the rotation. He took Wayne Selden's minutes against the Lakers in their last game. But now with Carter out, that opens the door for Portis to play more minutes at the 5. It opens the door for Parker to get more minutes at the 4, subsequently. So, I think Jabari Parker is pretty clearly one of the better values here.
All right. We have Wendell Carter, courtesy of Roto World. He's out with both a left thumb and a left knee injury. The MRIs came back negative on both. He is going to miss Thursday's game. They'll check him out again on Friday, and they are expecting him to be day-to-day moving forward. They say it would not be a shock to see him spend a few games on the sidelines, which, of course, brings in Bobby Portis. Is Bobby Portis going to be freed, Adam, as we move to power forward?
He's kind of has to be, you would think. I mean, even if they went back to Robin Lopez, I mean, you're losing what should be around 30 minutes a game from Carter. So I can't imagine Bobby Portis not finally getting minutes in this game.
All right, let's talk about $5,900 Lauri Markkanen. That seems kind of intriguing. We've got Domantas Sabonis in there at 7,100, a little bit high, but Philadelphia's got some imposing front court players. They may need his size. What do you like as you move down the price list here for the power forward position?
Yeah, kind of a spot, or definitely a spot where I would like to look to the mid-range here. We already talked about Kuzma in an appealing game. Lauri Markkanen at 5,900 is just too cheap a price tag for a guy that should play around 34 minutes here. I think that he should honestly just be more expensive. I'd rather play Markkanen than Millsap in their respective in that game. Pascal Siakam, the price tags come up, but if Kawhi sits, you should see a boost for Siakam here in a great spot against Phoenix. Same goes for Serge Ibaka, who's been an absolute monster this season without Kawhi. So again, just very, very important news to pay attention to with Leonard. And then Portis, obviously just to me, the number one option at the power forward position.
All right. As we dip down into the bargain bin, oh, goodness. Let's go all the way down. Let's go sub 4K. Let's have some fun. We've got Harry Giles. We've got Chandler Hutchison, who's been getting minutes, cobbling together some reasonable stats. Giles, 3,900. Hutchison, 3,700. Any thoughts on that duo before we look to the pivot position?
I mean, the minutes should be there for Hutchison. The production's not really there. The production's there for Giles, but the minutes won't really be there because he's essentially just playing backup center to Willie Cauley-Stein, and Charlotte's not a big team, so I don't really see any way that you start seeing Cauley-Stein plus Harry Giles lineups. So, outside of running 150 lineups and, maybe getting sprinkles of those guys, I just don't see it.
All right, then let's get back to some main plays. Let's cleanse the palate here. Let's bring our dear listeners in. We have Nikola Jokic at 10,600 going against Chicago. We do like that. If Denver's going to do something, it better be on his back. And then you've got Joel Embiid in that fun matchup in Indiana against the Pacers front court. If you were choosing between the two of them, what would be your line of demarcation?
Between Jokic and Embiid, I think that, for one, obviously the cheaper one in cash games. In tournaments, the lower owned one. I think that it's a better matchup for Jokic. Not that it's a super appealing matchup for either one. Both of these teams play slow. Both of them are decent to good defensively. Indiana's good. Chicago's okay. But Chicago has really gotten beat on the boards this year, and missing Wendell Carter shouldn't really do them any favors. You're just going to have a small front court now. So I think that, Jokic would be the one that I prefer, all things equal.
Okay. Absolutely fair. Another guy that we have kind of mixed bag, mixed results would be one DeAndre Ayton. Now, he has seen a dip in his minutes. We know he hit the rookie wall in mid-December. He even said so himself, broke through it with multiple games above 48 fantasy points on DraftKings. Unfortunately, in his last 7, he has crossed the 40 fantasy point plateau just once. That was against Denver. He's playing in a, let's call it the mid to upper 20s for minutes. How do you like him against the Toronto front court? -1 Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, I mean, not a great matchup. More of a tournament play for me. Should get around 30 minutes here as long as Phoenix can keep it close. The price tag's nice for the upside. The floor is kind of non-existent. But, I think that there's certainly upside there. In cash games, I'd rather just find the money for Steven Adams against the Lakers.
Okay. Absolutely valid there. We've got, we'll get to the Lakers in a sec because I got some questions about that. But we've got Paul Millsap. Now, this is a cautionary tale. He has not played. He's back in the starting lineup, but is not really needing to play as many minutes as Denver continues with one of the best records in all of the NBA. Denver is favored at home by 12 against Chicago. Feels like that one should just be an X out of our player pool. He is 5,800. I'm guessing we'll see 25 to 27 minutes from him, but that may only work out to 22 to 26 fantasy points. Feels like a reach.
Yeah, I mean, Millsap, it's just when you have a lot of guys underpriced at the power forward position like we do today, it gets tough to get to Millsap, who I think is pretty correctly priced.
All right. Tyson Chandler, JaVale McGee. Somebody is going to have to bang down low with Steven Adams. If you were choosing between that duo, and we did see Tyson Chandler get the start at an incredibly depressed price, would you consider either of the Lakers centers?
Yeah, I mean, whichever one's starting, I think, is a reasonable play. Both their price tags are really cheap. It's not an appealing matchup, but we know that McGee's a very good player on a permanent basis, and we know that Tyson Chandler is $3,500. So hopefully we get the news on who's going to start. I would assume that they stick with Chandler, but, who knows? So, yeah, obviously just something to keep an eye on news-wise.
All right. That is basically going to wrap up our podcast here. Again, we do have a 5-game slate, which means 10 teams are in action. We will get some value. It is January, mid to late January here. We're definitely in the middle of flu season. We're going to have some players getting a little bit of rest as we head into the All-Star break, as teams are a little bit more judicious these days. Fortunately, they are telling us, for the most part, in a timely fashion, so we can take advantage of this. So that's something that you'll definitely want to take care of and be cognizant of, because that definitely makes the difference as we go more and more to stars and scrubs build. If nothing breaks, which is always a possibility, then looking a little bit towards the mid-range on a slate like this could be fine, because, again, we only have half a dozen players that are in that $9,700 plus range. And you can get one of those guys and then just load up your lineup with solid plays across the other positions with one or two delicious discount dandies. Final thoughts on this slate before we duck on out of here, Adam?
No, it seems like a pretty fun, 5-game slate. A couple of really appealing games, some underpriced guys. I think it should be a pretty good one. I'll have the deep dive article out on awesemo.com sometime in the afternoon around 3:30, 4 o'clock, complete with my projections for everyone mentioned in it. So be sure to check that out.
Absolutely. And as a reminder, that is one of the most comprehensive articles out in DFS land. That is behind the premium paywall. And yes, they do come out in the afternoon. The main reason is because the slates can be turned upside down around 2 o'clock as soon as we get people being ruled out or ruled in, and it just can change things dramatically. So Adam and Laffy do yeoman's work making sure that you guys have the best information possible. The other thing that's always very helpful on that is if you're playing some of the late slates, they do write up everybody for the main slate, and you can always go back and look and see who is their diamonds in the rough on the early or the full slate, and that can definitely help you out on the late slates. With that, gamers, a reminder, you can get free NFL articles this weekend. We've got one for the Yahoo Divisional Championship that will be up around lunchtime on Thursday. We will have the Sunday night Battle Royale in the frigid, freezing temperatures between Kansas City and the Patriots for the single game slate. That, again, will be in front of the paywall, so definitely give those a gander. If you have not yet signed up for Yahoo, use the promo code AWESOMO. If you have not yet made a deposit on your DFS account, you can already have a gaming account, but if you have not yet made a deposit on your DFS account, the promo code AWESOMO will get you a $30 deposit match up to your first $30. That is available immediately in Yahoo Player Points, which you can use for any contest. So be sure to take advantage of that. With that, you can find Adam at Ship My Money DFS over there on the Twitter. You can find me at EMAC DFS. And of course, Awesemo is at Awesemo_COM on the Twitter machine. With that, gamers, good luck.